Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. So yeah, Reyna Gold is a fairly new company on the public markets. We started trading on January the 11th under the ticker REYG. It's something we've been working on in the background since really 2019. Some of the audience might be familiar with Reyna Silver. That's also a company me and my business partner here in Hong Kong, Jorge Ramiro, set up together. And while we were doing Reyna Silver, really Peter McGaw said to us both, we should also do gold exploration. The potential for gold exploration in northwestern Mexico is vast. So we've put together Reyna Gold. We've put together what we think is a great collection of assets with a great geological team. And we were fortunate enough to raise $13.6 million. So let me start going through the slides. I will make some forward-looking statements. So yeah, we have the portfolio of assets, over 57,000 hectares on the two major gold trends that come down from the US into Mexico. The exploration team is led by Dr. Peter McGaw. We're also fortunate to have Doug Kirwin, who was the VP of exploration for Ivanhoe Mines for 17 years as a senior technical advisor. And then we've hired a lot of young local Mexican geologists on the ground, come from the major producers, Fresnillo, Agnico Eagle, Pan American Silver in the area, all very knowledgeable local geologists who've cut their teeth at the majors. And then we've raised $13.6 million. We raised $3.1 million as a private company, mainly in 2020. And then we raised $10.5 million as part of our Go Public financing just recently. Now, the focus of the company is really northwestern Mexico. And Peter's thesis and a number of geologists' thesis is that the gold trends that produce so much gold in California, Nevada, and Arizona actually continue down into Mexico and have really had very little exploration and, as a consequence, production in comparison to across the border in America. And there's two major reasons for that. One is politics. Prior to NAFTA in 1994, very little foreign capital and expertise was flowing into Mexico. In fact, Peter was one of the few American or Canadian or Australian geologists operating in Mexico prior to NAFTA. And as a consequence, it was really left to the local mining companies, which back then were really state-run, and then smaller operators. So, the exploration was limited and as a consequence, production. But since the signing of NAFTA, we've had an influx of a lot of major mining companies, the likes of Agnico Eagle, Newmont, Pan American Silver, to name a few, have gone into this part of the world and produced a number of good deposits and making a lot of money from the mines there. Fresnillo is the biggest operator of gold production in this part of the world, particularly in Sonora. Fresnillo is viewed as the world's biggest primary silver producer, but actually now makes more money from gold than silver and Sonoran gold. It has three properties very close to our flagship property, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail, but are also very active in the area. So the thesis is that, the gold trends continue, but they're relatively underexplored. So the politics is one angle. And then the other angle is also the terrain. The terrain is flatter than across the border in America. And as a consequence, what the geologists call, we have a lot of cover. So really, it's just flat Sonoran desert sand. Fresnillo's biggest property, La Herradura, which is the biggest gold mine in Mexico, is a good example of this. That was what's called a completely covered deposit. It was found about 40 meters below the Sonoran desert sand, and now is a monster open pit, goes down about 1.1 kilometers. And Fresnillo have discovered almost 16 million ounces of gold so far at the property. And the indications are that they will continue to discover plenty more over the coming decades. So that's the kind of target we're looking for. That's what excites the likes of Peter. Peter calls them elephants. He knows there's elephants in the terrain. And where there's one elephant, Peter will tell you there's likely to be multiple elephants. So that's what we're hunting for. In addition to La Herradura, there's a number of other mines, but the fact there are such big prizes in this area really excites the geological team. Moving on to our capital structure, we have 66 million shares on issue. Our Go Public price is at 40 cents. We have traded off a little bit from that. I think we're trading around 34, 35 cents today. We have raised $3.1 million privately, and most of that financing was done at 12 cents. So we have experienced a little bit of selling. Also, in comparison with most listings, all our stock was free trading. We didn't put a form of hold on the 40-cent financing. So at the moment, we're trading at around 22, 23 million market cap with about $11 million in the bank. So I think a number of investors I speak to understand this presents quite a good entry point into the story if you're not already a shareholder. We have a number of major institutional funds focused on exploration who are shareholders, Commodity Discovery Fund, Willem Middelkoop out of Amsterdam, Commodity Capital, Tobias Schroeder, a German fund, EMA, Lawrence Leopard in America, and Jeremy Bond out of Australia, to name a few. All very, strong focus on resources and particularly exploration. So great to have such shareholders on board, and gives us a good stamp of approval. I'll go quickly through Peter and Doug. I think they're quite familiar to a lot of people in the capital market. Both discovered very substantial deposits. Peter most famously for Juanicipio Mag Silver, which has gone into production now as a JV with Fresnillo. And then Doug Kirwin most famously for Orotogo in Mongolia, for Robert Friedland, now one of the biggest mines in the world, operated by Rio Tinto. So great to have such guidance at the top of the geological team. And then under Peter and Doug's guidance, we've hired Ariel Navarro, who's a third-generation prospector from Sonora. Ariel's father, Alberto, has discovered 5 mines in Sonora and is quite famous in the area. And Ariel's brought together, Ariel is 42, he's brought together kind of his generation of geologists. Hidel Garcia has joined us from Fresnillo. He was working up the road at La Herradura. He's the exploration manager at our flagship property, La Gloria. And we're also very fortunate to have Cacho Molina as a director, and Cacho is very active, involved with the geological team on the ground. Cacho was running core mining in Mexico until 2020 when he stepped into kind of semi-retirement. And great to have Cacho's knowledge and local expertise as part of the company. A company to point out also, Jorge, who's the chairman, my business partner here in Hong Kong, he was also a founding director of Prime Mining. I'm not sure if people are familiar with Prime, but it's been a great success story. Pierre Sanders got behind the story and backed it, and I think now it's around 400 million market cap. And we actually looked at the Prime asset. It was a bit too much for us to digest back then, and it was taken on by a gentleman called Andy Bowering, who has really done a great job with the company. And that started out as 8 basically satellite deposits, and what they've shown is actually it's one big system. So we've been looking for a similar type deposit since, and we believe we have acquired such a similar type deposit, if a little bit earlier stage, with the Gloria property. So I'll quickly go through the portfolio as a whole. Our core focus is on La Gloria. Completely for the first 6 months of the year will be the core focus. We will then assess initial work and results at La Gloria and assess whether we start to allocate some time and capital to the other projects. But in total, we have over 57,000 hectares. Out of Erasmo, also a substantial land package right in the heart of the Sierra Madre gold and silver belts. And then the final 2 properties are 2 that Peter and his team have put together over the previous few years. Again, very prospective properties, good land size with lots of targets already identified, ready for more extensive exploration work. Sorry, actually, I meant to be on the Chinese slide. Here's a Chinese slide, the same thing. Most of them are dual, but this one is slightly different. So La Gloria as a whole is kind of similar to Sonora. We view it relatively underexplored. It's a very interesting land package right by the Alchinase mine that's produced 1.7 million ounces of gold, and on trend up to the 3 Fresnillo properties, including the Herradura. And in total, it's only had about $5 million spent prior to us acquiring the property, and 13,000 meters of drilling, 5,000 samples. So, we've already gone in and done about 1,500 samples since August, when we got the team on the ground and started mobilizing. And actually, just today, we've announced we're starting drilling. We're starting an initial 10,000 meter drill program. So here's a Mojave-Sonora Megashear. It comes down from California into Sonora. And as you can see, in total, there's already 35 million ounces of gold have been discovered on this trend. You can see across the border in the US, we have the Mesquite mine, now owned and operated by Equinox Gold, Ross Beaty's Equinox Gold. But we're really focused on what the locals call the Caborca Gold Belt, just north of Caborca. So just zooming into that, here you can see, this is really a great location for an exploration project. The infrastructure is fantastic. The city of Caborca really is a mining town. Most of the Fresnillo staff live in Caborca and commute out the belt to the properties. There's an LAS lab in Caborca and lots of other mining services. So great location for exploration. Now, the Gloria property, is 24,000 hectares in total. You can see we have these 2 regional fault lines mapped running parallel across the property, both high angle structures, which is great to see an orogenic gold deposit. Often these orogenic gold deposits, we need high angle structures really to bring the mineralization close to surface. And the team's already identified 4 different types of gold mineralization on the deposit. We have orogenic quartz veins, traditional orogenic quartz veins. We have a shear zone, we have intrusive mineralization, and we have stockwork systems. So delighted with the initial work, finding lots of gold at surface, and really great to be starting drilling. So here's some initial sample results we put out when we started trading in January the 11th. You can see some fantastic grades at surface, up to 93 grams per ton gold from a quartz vein at Pique Verjo, 36 grams also from a separate quartz vein, and then also some very high grade results from the shear zone, which we're delighted to see. And you can see also, interestingly, the big pit area is a shear zone area in the northern part of the main zone. We've got a lot of positive results. You can see 78% of the samples we did in big pit came back with gold above 0.1. Now, in this part of the world, 0.1 is in play. This would be a heap leach deposit. All the deposits on the trend are heap leach deposits. And the average grade of the mines is about 0.4, 0.5, with a cutoff in the region of 0.1, 0.2. So delighted with the initial sampling, and yeah, really now delighted to be initiating drilling. And the aim is actually we can start getting results out to the market fairly quickly. There is a lab in Caborca, just south of the property, and guidance from the lab is we're looking at about 2 months turnaround on assay results. In addition to the main zone area, which is a core focus, and I'll go on to it shortly, we're also focusing on El Sombrero, just to the northeast in the initial drilling. But we also done a lot of sampling down at La Quintas West and San Pedro, down southeast on trend here. Also quartz veining here, similar quartz veining to in the southern part of the main zone. And then this is all covered. As mentioned, there's a lot of cover in this part of the world, so we definitely want to start looking under the cover. This is about 7 kilometers from target to target. So if we can start to show extensions of the quartz veining all along here, you know, that's really a lot of potential gold coming to light at the deposit. I'll quickly go through this slide, but I'll try to wrap up and then we can do some Q&A. But this is just looking at the shear zone, the big pit. You can see anything on here is above 0.1. The yellow dots are above 1 gram per ton from the sample results. Now, this is the initial drilling. We've just put out the press release this morning before we started trading. So phase 1 drilling will be 10,000 meters. We've announced the initial 22 holes. In total, the team's already identified over 20,000 meters of drill targets, base both on the 2 areas here, main zone and El Sombrero, and also down at La Quintas West and San Pedro. So identifying lots of targets, delighted to get drilling. The intention was always to start drilling around the middle of February. So great that we've kept on schedule. We will start drilling at the shear zone, the big pit area. You can see we'll put in 6 holes here. Then move down to Pique Verjo, the quartz veining. We will put a drill hole into the 93 gram the vein that produced a 93 gram sample. And then we'll move over to Placeres. And interestingly, the team is starting to see a trend emerging, running kind of parallel to the regional fault line up from Placeres into the big pit area. So this is something we're testing in this initial program. And you can see there's some holes here also going north out of the area. So over in El Sombrero, the team has been working here really since the start of the year and finding some really interesting results and kind of sped up drilling in this part of the property. There was some historic sampling done from the previous owners, but it was never followed up with any drilling. But there were some very positive results. And one thing the team is noticing very strongly in this part of property is there's a strong correlation between the high levels of arsenic and gold mineralization. So that's something that's helping us find mineralization. This area in total is about 2,000 hectares, main zone and El Sombrero. So a substantial part of the property, about 10%. And you can see lots of targets really all over the 2,000 hectare area. Just quickly go through this. This is the different styles of mineralization in main zone. As mentioned, we believe there's actually potential that Placeres is joining up the big pit as one target on the northeast trend. And you can see they find a lot of visible gold at surface, both rolled nuggets and also then the more flaky nuggets like this. So, you know, good indications. There's a big system here, lots of gold at surface, and now really wanting to start drilling down and understanding the system better. I'll skip through this for time, and I think really just quickly wrap up here, Gilbert, and I think we can jump into some Q&A. We'll go through the other properties in another time, but we will have one drill rig on site. The intention is basically, hopefully we can keep it on most of the year. We'll have 2 teams mapping and sampling continuously around the target areas, really focused on the western part of the property, expanding out from that main zone, keep producing drill targets, and we'll see the initial results. But as mentioned, already lots of targets, and delighted now to be starting drilling. I think in this market, a lot of people want to see drill results. So hopefully we can start getting results out to the market kind of April, early May. So I think with that, Gilbert, I think we can wrap up and take a few questions.
Thank you, Michael. Here, so a few questions here. The first one from Max. So hi, Michael. I saw a press release today. When will the first phase of the drill program start?
It started. Yeah, as of Monday. Everything started on Monday. We're up and running.
Great. The next one from Kelsey. Is your strategy is trying to prove enough resources and then sell it to the majors one day?
Yeah, look, I mean, our strategy right now is just to build up a big deposit, and then we'll assess our options. I think in this market, if you build up a big gold deposit, a lot of people want to take it off your hands. Everybody knows the majors are depleting their reserves, and we can see more and more transactions taking place, like Great Bear, on good discovery. So I think most likely yes, but we'll assess. Let's see when we get to that stage.
Right. One last question here from Brad. What kind of news or activities investors expecting this year from Reyna?
Yeah, definitely drill results and ongoing sample results. I think we'll give more guidance on targeting as we advance over the kind of next couple of months, and then hopefully we start getting drill results out kind of end of April, early May, and then hopefully we have a pretty constant flow of results over the summer period. That's the intention. So hopefully lots of news flow. And hopefully by the fall, we've really shown that there's a lot of mineralization here. We're understanding the system, and we can advance this probably pretty quickly in 2022.
Great. Thank you for your time here with us here today, Michael.
Great. Thanks, Gilbert.
Yes. Stay safe.